Let's get real. If you've not been keeping an eye on your small business's finances, this video may be the wake-up call that you needed. I'm going to walk you through how I create my business budget, run my Finance Friday workflow. You've asked for it, so let's talk about the one thing that a lot of us avoid and run for the hills when it comes up: money. I love digging into this topic because creative small business finances is something that I have struggled with. I am not a math girly by nature, and I had to fight to figure this stuff out the first 1 to 2-ish years of my business. Now that I've been in business for almost 9-ish years, I know some things, and I've learned to love the finances side of the business. It lights me up. It makes sense in my brain. I'm slow at it, but I've figured it out and I enjoy it, and I want you to have that joy too. If there's one metric that you cannot deny in your business, it's cash flow. You are alive or not by cash flow in your business. Without it, you do not exist. And if you do not have it coming in regularly, you're not in the game. This is the metric for business. And I'm so passionate about helping creative small business owners figure it out. Last week I did a video. It was kind of part one. I didn't really mention it, but it was part one of this little 2-part series. I talked more in that video about how to even figure out your price, why charge what you're worth is miserable, terrible advice, and what to do instead. So this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more, instead of landing on cost and value, I'm going to talk more in this video about then how do you actually get paid. Click like if this hits. This is what you need. Tap that subscribe button as well so you're notified when videos like this come out. If we've not yet met, my name is Ashlyn. I started my business in about 2016, built a lean, incredible team, and have gone on to sell around $1.5 million just in copywriting services alone. We have other parts of the business, but I'm proud of that. And I've fought tooth and nail to figure this stuff out. Like I said, I've messed up a gazillion times along the way, but along the way coined the phrase copywriting for creatives and the little cottage industry that's come along with that. I have a shop called the Copy Bar, template shop, subscription, membership. Some of the coolest people on the internet are inside there. And all of that is fun, but at the end of the day, I'm a working mom with 3 precious, beautiful kids that I love so much. So figuring out how to do all of this and do my first job as a wife and a mom is the game to me. That's what I'm out there to figure out. So the first piece of the puzzle for me comes in building a business budget and knowing what my enough number is. This was a concept I didn't really know about until I got the train. Like, what's that mean? The train hit me in the form of my friend Shanna Skidmore, and I realized, oh my gosh, I've been coming at this the wrong way. I need to first realize and recognize, what do I need to take home in my business? What is my enough number? Like, what does Ashlyn need to take home? And then I figure out a lot of our business based off of that. Several sources have said that the freelance economy, and I know we call ourselves different things: creative small business owners, entrepreneurs, freelancers. That gig economy is valued to reach around $12.01 billion by 2028. That highlights the importance of freelance work or for-hire work, small businesses that are providing a lot of those things and fueled by those things. But it also merits the question, are you paying yourself your sliver of the pie? A fun fact about me is I did not pay myself my first year in business, which led to as many marriage arguments as you can imagine it did. It was also our first year in marriage. It was awful. Well, marriage wasn't awful, but that scarcity mindset of I knew how to sell, I knew how to make money and bring people in to my services as a calligrapher and a copywriter, but I had no idea what to do on the back end of that. I didn't know what percentage of the pie to pull out, what to reinvest. None. So here's what I learned. Step 1, you want to start with, like I said, your enough number. I base my salary off what I know my take home needs to be. That means I need to start with our family spending plan. The easiest way to do that is to set up a budgeting type of tool. I used to use mint.com regularly when that existed. Do you know one that I've loved though in the past few years? Money with Katie creates a wealth planner, which is basically like an Excel spreadsheet on steroids, and it is so great. So however your system, whether you track this manually in a spreadsheet or you lean on some of those fantastic tools that are out there, getting clear on this is important. This is where the mindset switch from a finances standpoint was helpful for me. When I started working in corporate marketing, I had a capped salary. So I knew this is what my take home is. So when I made the switch to being an entrepreneur, that idea flew out the window, and it was a huge, the dichotomy between here's what you need to make, figure out how to make it, and here's what you're gonna make, no matter what you do, just do what we ask. those are two separate ways of thinking, and it was very difficult for me to make the jump to thinking more like, okay, now, I can build the puzzle however I want, but this is what I need to make. Like I said, I like to figure this out with spreadsheets. If you're interested in some of these tools that I'm mentioning, look down below. I've got a freebie guide, 7 steps to get financially set in your business. Also, I'm talking about different things that I've learned inside the blueprint model. I lead a group of students through this every single year, doing it again. So look down below if you want details on the blueprint model with me. Step 2 is figuring out the hard costs that it takes to keep your business's lights on. So I talked about this in the first video in this series, figuring out what the hard costs are of your products, the offers that you sell, but also just your business in general. Going through figuring out every single line item in your business, from your PO box, all the software subscriptions you have, etc. So you're switching here. You're not thinking about your personal finances at all anymore. You're thinking about just your business. You're going through all of your costs. I'll plug a little exercise I mentioned in the last video. I'll mention it here too. Cody Sanchez wrote about it on Twitter. I saw it, or X, whatever it's called. I saw it and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm totally doing that. And I did. She basically looked at all of her hard costs, wanted to cut them as we do as entrepreneurs, and said, she picked the number 20%. She said, pick a number. I picked 16%. It's my favorite number, 16. And I went through all of our hard costs. I printed all of our credit card statements out from about, I think it was like 4 to 5-ish months. I went through with the highlighter, and anything that could be cut or negotiated for a lower rate, I highlighted. And I made that, and I was able to pull down a lot of our hard costs. So that's step 2 here to figuring out your business budget. You know what your salary is. You know what your enough number is. You need to figure that out. And then the next thing you need to do is, I get excited when I'm talking about money. Who am I? The next thing that you need to do is pull down your costs. What does it cost to keep the lights on? So step 3 is, in your business budget, setting your pricing based off of that. And I talked about pricing again in that first video. Your pricing is based off looking at your costs and a blend of industry rates. Again, I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on that because I talked about it in the last video. This is all in one tab of my business's annual blueprints. So I have one tab that I call our cost of goods, and it's where I see for every single offer that we have the hard costs that go into it, and I'm able to run the formula and make sure that I'm running that healthy margin that I like, that 40 to 50% margin. That's on one spreadsheet. And then this whole business budget, the business spending plan, is its own tab in the spreadsheet. And that's where I'm going through and I'm listing out every single overhead expense, and then whether I'm paying for it monthly or it's an annual payment. As you're working through building your business budget before you can even start paying yourself, because you need the budget first, it may be helpful to know, I talked about this in the last video, I try to stay between 60% operating costs, 40% margins. You may run closer to 50%. I also gave an example in the last video about a third. That may be a helpful lens for you to look through. You kind of have to adapt the one that you feel is best for you and based off of your business. If you have a massive team and lots of infrastructure, your margins may be smaller. You may run more like 70-30. I'm always tracking this. This is one metric that I look at every single week because, like I said, that cash flow is so very, very important. So now I want to take you to, what does this look like every week playing out? What is my Finance Friday workflow? What does it look like this past year? As I do that, I want to remind you that if you've built a business that has afforded you a lifestyle it's a lifestyle business. You love what you do, and you can go pick up your kids every day from school, or whatever that thing is that's most valuable, your non-negotiables, you have hit the jackpot. The number of people that don't even get to do that and want to so badly, that is very important. So I think when we run through these numbers, don't forget about the lifestyle aspect of it too. And it's fun. Sometimes we're in phases of life. I've been in eras of my business where I'm like, let's gun it. Let's get as fat margins as possible. I can work. And then I've also been in business eras where I'm growing another kid and I just want to be with my family and I want to take a lot of time off. And I'm like, we're not going to have those margins right now. And it is what it is. And as long as you come back to what your non-negotiables are, and you understand, you can still cut yourself the paycheck that based off the knowledge of your enough number is correct. It is so freeing. It is an unbelievable gift. So before I get into what I do every single week to pay myself, I did want to say that you're going to see those margins ebb and flow again, maybe just as a mom, as as a woman, I want to say that those will definitely ebb and flow as you go through different phases, and that's okay. That is okay. All right, here's my weekly Finance Friday flow. It really doesn't take me, I would say, more than an hour, more than probably even 30 minutes. The longest part is the first thing. It's categorizing personal expenses. I used to also categorize our business expenses. Did that for years with my own spreadsheet system, and we have an incredible bookkeeper now who does that. So I'm not looking in the weeds and seeing if they have a question, they'll bubble that up. But from a business standpoint, I'm mostly able to look at a P&L statement, and they show me where categories are going. Carter family, I'm doing that. So was that Amazon order split up in gifts and baby supplies, or how do things divvy up? This is the point where I'll pop in Slack and make sure that Madison, our bookkeeping team, doesn't have any questions for me about categorization of anything. Step number 2 is paying off credit cards. I know people have different opinions on credit cards and debt. We are points game players over here. I love to play the points game, especially in business. There's great cards out there. We've used this Capital One card. My financial advising friend, Aria, told me about this a few years ago, and I've loved it. So for what it's worth, at time of recording, I've enjoyed this for a while. It has a good point system, and it also, I can use the points in Amazon, so that's helpful as well. Girl math feels like free money. It's not, I know, but I like that. So this part of the workflow involves chunking and paying off all of the credit card debt. Step number 3, accounts receivable, making sure accounts are paid up. Accounts receivable I was like, I have no idea what that means. What are you talking about? What is this you speak of? That mainly means making sure people have paid you. At this point, Sarah, our head of agency, does it, but going through and making sure that you don't have outstanding payments or delinquent payments, that those reminders from Honeybook fired out and reminded people, hey, you don't forget you have that payment. If you have any kind of subscription services, making sure that dunning software that you have is running and credit cards aren't bouncing. If you have digital products, there's lots of tools in place to help you with this, but run a check on that. Make sure that the things are working and the cash flow is coming in and there's not a blockage along the way. All right, step number 4. This is the envelope system style of thinking that is popularized in the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I think I'm saying that right. Hands down must read if you're a small business owner. It was so stinking helpful. So here is the gist of what he teaches, is to have all roads lead to Rome. So all of your money's coming in goes to one account, and then from that account you then divvy up based on different pieces of the business and operations. These are the operations, the arms that we've talked about in part 1 in this week. So those arms are going to be operating expenses, so your hard costs, owner's draw, you getting paid as the queen bee, the CEO, the business owner, profit, and taxes. So this covers every single category that I've talked about in these videos. So what you're gonna do every month, you have all that money come into the account and then you just divvy it out. Now, how do you know what percentage goes into each? Well, you know your percentage on hard costs because we talked about that earlier in this video. So you know whether you're running at 45% or 50% or 60%, what goes into there. Taxes, you can probably put about 15% there. He recommends starting at 10% for profit, which is such sound wisdom. So every time money comes in, that's why it's called what it is. Pay yourself first, profit first, put 10% off the top, it goes over into profit and it sits there and it just continues to grow over time, or you can put it into something that'll grow more aggressively. But at the end of the day, you're chunking it away and you're not spending it. And then he's also cutting out a certain amount of money and you're putting it in your owner's bucket. So getting paid as the CEO. You're getting paid as the employee, the worker bee, in the operating costs. Again, go see the part 1 video. The credit card, it's getting paid out of operating expenses because that's just operating expenses are going on the card. I hope that makes sense. That is our routine every single Friday. Either I do it or sometimes I look up and Wes has already done it. And I think, because it is a gut check for me to see what came in. I know about how much our business brings in every single week. And the knowledge of that number alone is very powerful because it helps me. It's like it's a checkup number for me. And I know it's going to ebb and flow based off seasons, but it's like going to the doctor and I just see, okay, that's what my temperature was today. Like I said at the beginning, cash flow is everything. My financial system for our business after almost a decade in this is this big blend of, I would say the trifecta being the blueprint model is where it started for me. Again, look down below for details on that. Profit first, so very helpful. And then I would say just the knowledge of that I've gotten a little bit more shrewd and understanding about finances, so I'm not afraid to hear information and be like, that won't work for us. Whereas early on in my business, I didn't know what I didn't know, and so it was also helpful. But now I would say I'm not afraid to hodgepodge, and I'll bring in different learnings or different things financially that I want to try in the business that I'm more confident about trying, because I understand I had a basis. If you do not have that basis yet, look down below, grab that freebie, 7 steps to get financially set in your business. Join me and Shanna. She's got a free training coming up where she's going to talk to you about how to price, how to cost, a lot of these things that I figured out first initially with her when I was completely floundering. By the way, you made it this far, I'm going to give you a bonus tip in this video. We keep a scorecard of KPIs in my business. It's our stats tracker. I sell it in our shop, but I look at it every Monday, and my team fills it in their different categories. This is another healthy way where I see it's a stat, it's a tracker that I understand where we are, what the health of my business is. So that is your snapshot on first how to build a business budget, and then how to get yourself paid with that Finance Fridays workflow. Click like if this video helped you. Don't forget about those resources mentioned down below. And if you missed the last video all about how to price yourself, be sure to watch it too. I've got it teed up for you. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to comment below with any questions that you may have. Here's to working from a place of more rest and less hustle. See you next time.